Vice President, Governor Holcomb, Secretary Acosta, and Senator Todd Young. TKO would like to thank you for coming here today. And this committee here of small business owners and community leaders, we're excited about asking you guys questions and you guys asking us questions and so on. We're excited that you're going to hear our stories about our business, and we're very excited about talking about tax relief for our companies. Mr. Governor.
Well, thank you, Tom, and thank you for the tour. It's quite an amazing story. You are living the American dream, and it's just exciting to be around that. And you are the very definition of what is fueling Indiana's momentum, and this momentum started some years ago, but you can just feel it in the air. And just this morning I was down briefly in Sellersburg, Indiana, and I was in Jasper for lunch at a chamber meeting with about 350 members of the Chamber of Commerce there, representing small businesses from A to Z, and they are flourishing in Indiana, but they need some help. They need some help from Washington, D.C., and I can just tell you that the gentleman to my immediate right was in large part responsible for continuing to take our state to that next level, making sure that we had a very attractive tax code and a very attractive regulatory environment in which they could flourish. But there's one more thing we need, and we need some partners in the nation's capital to help us see us through. Just yesterday, I hope word traveled, but we were able to announce that we broke a record for the number of job commitments coming to the state of Indiana, and we went from the previous record. Allow me to keep talking about this record for just a second. Previous record was 27,260, and we are approaching 29,000. We've still got a month and a half to go to run up the score. And when the Vice President and his partners in Congress get this tax reform done, this is what we need. This is the missing link. And I just am so excited to lateral the ball here to my good friend and our former governor and now the Vice President of the United States of America. We could not be prouder of the Vice President, Mike Pence.
Let's hear it again for a record-breaking governor of Indiana, Governor Eric Holcomb. How about it? Congratulations. Doing a great job here in the Hoosier state. I know just back from traveling overseas, telling Indiana's story to foreign investors. So it's good to be with you. Thank you for making time. Join me also in thanking Tom Tallman and TKO Graphics for opening up this incredible American success story for this conversation. Tom, thank you. 32 years in the making, and it's a great Indiana success story and a great story of the kind of jobs and opportunity that are created when people pursue their dreams. I'm also very gratefully joined today by a great partner in prosperity, a great partner, President Trump, and myself in Washington, D.C., our Senator Todd Young, who we'll hear from more in a minute. And I'll introduce him after I make just a few brief remarks, but we're really here to listen. Thank you all for coming to listen in on a conversation. I look forward to saying hello to as many of you as time permits at the end of this discussion. But President Trump has asked me to travel around the country with members of our cabinet like Secretary Acosta and talk about what we believe is the most important priority for long-term economic growth in the United States of America. President Trump believes the time has come to cut taxes across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farms. And we're here to talk to the people that are making jobs and opportunities in Indiana. We're going to listen to these folks about what tax cuts would mean in their companies. And I'm anxious to hear their thoughts. But For those of you that are gathered here today, President Trump said it well not long ago when he said, "Our country and our economy cannot take off like they should unless we transform America's outdated, complex, and extremely burdensome tax code." And I expect the job creators gathered around this roundtable as people that I've met in states around the country, running businesses large and small. I expect you all agree with the President's sense of that. Our vision is very simple. We've been working very closely with members of the House and Senate to advance the vision. I'll give you an update before we leave. But Congress is making steady progress on what President Trump believes will be nothing short of a middle-class miracle. It's going to be tax cuts that's focused on working families, small businesses and family farms. It's going to be tax cuts that are focused on making American businesses more competitive by lowering the corporate tax rate in America so companies here in Indiana and around this country can compete with companies anywhere in the world. And President Trump believes the time has come to simplify our tax code so 9 out of 10 Americans can file their taxes on a single piece of paper. So it's simplification, it's lowering business taxes, and it's lowering taxes on working families. Those are the priorities, but what I'm curious about today from these job creators is what that will mean in your businesses. We've been talking with business owners around the country about the prospect of tax relief. You all have read in the newspapers about the progress that we're making in the House and the Senate on moving tax relief. But the questions that I'd love to have you to consider are just threefold. Number one, how important are tax cuts to your business? Your business where you are this year in 2017. And how important are they to your suppliers, to your vendors, to those that you sell your products to? Secondly, what do you see as the most important part of the President's tax cut plan? There's a bill that moved out of a key committee in the House of Representatives today, a bill that was unveiled in the United States Senate today with Senator Young's deep involvement. But as you know, details of these various bills, are there aspects of those as a business owner that are particularly meaningful to you? And lastly, number three, what would you do with the money? I mean, it's a very straightforward question that I think has for me, as I've asked that question around the country, has been very refreshing. I mean, would you use it to hire more people? Would you use it to raise wages? Would you put the money in the bank? Would you buy more equipment? But we'd really love for you to reflect on those answers. So how important, what aspects of the plan do you think are most important to your business? And lastly, what would you do with a tax cut if we got that job done for the American people this year? So with that, let me turn the conversation over for a few remarks and to lead the discussion. Secretary Alex Acosta brings an incredible background in American labor law. He's one of the leading lights of free market economics, and he is now the Secretary of Labor for the United States of America. Would you just give him a warm welcome, a member of the President's staff, Alex Acosta.
Well, Mr. Vice President, thank you for those remarks. And Governor, thank you for sharing that record. It is fabulous to hear that news. Wonderful for the state and for the nation. As the Vice President said, President Trump has asked the Vice President and members of his cabinet to travel across the nation to hear from Americans about what tax reform means to them. From my perspective, tax reform is really all about job creation. The tax reform bill is a job creation bill. Now, as Secretary of Labor, the President has tasked me with 3 priorities: create jobs, create more jobs, and foster an environment that creates even more jobs. And I'll tell you, since January, this nation's off to a great start. We just reached a net increase of 1.5 million jobs in our nation. Amazing. And the unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in 17 years, 4.1%. And the stock market has hit a high and another high and another high. And this is all happening in an environment of low inflation. But the President knows that we can do better. And that is why he's pushing this tax reform bill so hard. because we create jobs by fostering business growth. As businesses grow, they hire. And as Americans find more jobs and better jobs, they fuel growth by buying and by investing in America. And so the bottom line is this: lower taxes and simpler taxes create the right conditions for job creation. And that is why the Vice President, the Cabinet, and I are so encouraged by the President's plans. But we're here to hear from you. As the Vice President said, we're here to hear about what tax reform means to you as small business owners, as job creators here in America, as the individuals that hire American workers. And so we'd like to hear from each of you, and then we'll conclude by hearing from Senator Young. And so let me just start off by maybe turning it to you, Tom. Thank you for having us here. Thank you for hosting. What does this mean to you? What does tax reform mean to you?
It's a very big deal for us, especially our employees. We employ about 260 people here, and there's a lot of middle class. And with the tax reform, we're looking at them getting more money on their tax returns, and we just want a better quality of life for them. And as a business owner, you can only pay so much to be competitive, and with the rising cost of health insurance and regular garage liability insurance and everything else, it's tough for us to continue keeping wages going up. And we also have to continue paying, every time health insurance goes up, we try to absorb as much as we can, but sometimes it takes more money out of their pockets too. So you're giving them a raise one day, and then you're asking them to pay extra on their health care. So with them getting more money back, we just want a better quality of life for our employees, and I think this definitely does it. And with the corporate tax returns for a business owner, hopefully it's going to give us a little bit of a cushion to where we're not so tight and always having to keep getting more and more debt to expand. This will give us a little bit more cushion that we'll be able to expand a little easier and continue growing TKO.
Well, thank you, Tom. And what struck me about your comments is better quality of life for your employees. So it's not just what it means to you as a job creator, but what it means to all of your employees. And so thank you for that.
If I can interject too, Tom, we saw some of this beautiful equipment that you have here at this state-of-the-art facility. And he did offer to shrink wrap Air Force Two. Always sell. Always sell.
I think we're close.
About that. One of the things the Secretary and I were talking about as we walked through was the cost of equipment here is very significant, the technology.
Yes.
You need to stay on the leading edge. One of the aspects of the plan that's been advancing in the Congress with the President's support is immediate expensing of equipment. Can you explain the impact that would have on your business, your ability to compete, and your employees?
Yeah, with that, we'll be able to, we just bought 2 new printing presses and spent $600,000-$700,000. And with the immediate expense, it would definitely help lower the taxes that we have to pay, and we'd be able to invest faster in other equipment and continue the growth.
Great. But a very significant element for you, I expect.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Alex? That's right, thank you. So let me turn it over to Alfonso. Alfonso, your president is of Vidal Plastics.
Correct. That's correct.
So the 3 questions Vice President mentioned. How important are the tax cuts? What's the most important part of our tax cut plan to you personally? And what would you do with the tax cut if you were to receive it?
For us, we're a startup. I mean, we're 5 years in business, and we're still considered very much a startup. But we are on the cusp of a major investment and expansion for us. That expansion, which by the way has been possible for a grant by the state of Indiana for recycling plastic. So it's very important for us to invest in the right technology to be able to take that recycling to the next level. How do we keep all that plastic outside the landfills and going back into product and industry, right? So one of the things that is very important for us is that investment in technology, being able to stay ahead of the curve, so to speak. I mean, we have outside competition, and I mean outside the United States competition that is very active on recycling plastic. So for us, it's key to maintain that growth, to maintain that edge in the technology. Another part of that is, like Tom said, we have employees, and there's only so much that we can do, with salaries and in the middle of expansion and a new company, right? So for those employees to be able to receive, like Tom said, I mean, it makes it easier for us to be able to reinvest in the company and the equipment necessary to continue growing. So that is, for us, the main factor for all this tax reform. And of course, the ability to continue growing and reinvest in the production and the technologies.
And so this will help keep you competitive. It'll help keep the jobs here in the United States so they don't go to the overseas competitors.
Yeah, for example, for plastic raw materials, it's very dense. So we're able to travel a long way. So we're able to service out of Evansville, Indiana. We're able to service Mexico. We're able to service Canada. So we are creating jobs in the United States, in southern Indiana, specifically that can service markets outside the United States. So with being able to be more competitive, to hire the people necessary to that. And for example, a lot of training. I mean, we invest a lot of training, making sure that those machines are going to stay up to speed, and being able to do the necessary things that is going to allow my employees to continue that growth. So it is essential to do all those things, and it's very hard with a new company like mine, but we're able little by little to continue to grow that.
How many employees do you have now, Alfonso?
We have now 5.
5 employees.
Yes.
After 5 years, company's growing.
Yeah, after 5 years, we're growing. We're about, like I said, we are in expansion mode. Mm-hmm. So very strapped for cash, as you can imagine, in the middle of buying equipment, trying to get to the next level. But hopefully, and if this continues, and President Trump's proposal are key. With the cut rate of the corporate tax, hopefully that also is going to generate more business for us, which in turn is going to generate, of course, more the ability to be able to hire more people. So all those things are a good package that I think is extremely good for the United States.
Great.
Thank you.
But I heard you over and over again say, you get a tax cut for your business, you're going to invest it in growth.
Absolutely.
So, great. Appreciate your candor, and congratulations.
Thank you.
On your success. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Alex?
So Jennifer, you and Hagen are co-owners of Be-Free Gluten-Free Bakery. So.
Yeah, yes. Actually, I am the sole owner of Be-Free Gluten-Free Bakery. So it's a women-owned business that I started. We are a family business, so Hagen is an integral part of our company, as are the rest of our children and my husband. So I started Be-Free Gluten-Free Bakery in 2010 with the intent, purpose to help our oldest son who's on the autism spectrum. And so gluten-free has been really powerful for him. It's been very, very helpful. And so with that, flash forward, a dozen years or so as we experimented and found some good recipes that worked, a business was born. And that business was born out of my passion for feeding my own family delicious, whole, clean food, but also based on the need to help other people, other families that were struggling, trying to find their way, trying to find good sources of good, clean, quality food. And so that's what we're really super passionate about, is that food source and getting that good, quality food into people's hands all over the country. So we are based in Noblesville, Indiana. That's my hometown, where my family and I live. And what the tax relief would mean to us as a business would be growth. We would put it right back into our business. So we would be able to expand. We would be able to create additional products. But more importantly, we would be able to use that money to expand to get out to other states that we're not in currently. So our goal is to be a national brand. And so we're a little more than halfway there. So we're in about 27 states across the country right now. And we're really passionate about keeping a lot of that work right here in Indiana. So we've tried and focused really hard on making things work here in Indiana. and we're really proud of that. So we'd like to see that continue to grow.
That's great. How many employees now? You're in 27 states.
Yes. So we, right now, we have 3 full-time employees and a handful of part-time and seasonal employees, and we make a lot happen. So,
and you're selling it over half the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. It's very impressive. Yeah. Well done. Your business is lots of different. Tom, you said earlier how many employees you have. 260 people.
About 260, yes.
And a little over 100 that work at this facility.
Correct.
Here in Plainfield. Okay, good. Great. Well, congratulations. I don't know if
Thank you.
Hagen's got anything to add there, if the boss lets you speak.
Go for it.
Not much. I mean, just tax cut would really help with the paying off student debt. I mean,
Hagen's a college student
yeah.
as well too. So
There you go.
Yeah,
Now you're
yeah.
talking.
yeah. Tax cut, I guess, yeah, student debt, and I put some things on my Jeep, so.
That's great. Thanks for being here, Hagen. Bee-free, gluten-free bakery.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Thank you. So Kathleen and Edward, you are co-owners of Cabello Associates. So what does the tax reform mean to you?
Well, the exciting thing, and it's kind of repetitive, but it would be to really be able to hire more staff.
That's great.
We're fortunately on an uptick, and we were talking earlier that all of us are business owners, so while we were waiting, believe me, we were getting business done. And so but we're always working, and it would be nice to add more staff, because you think about that, adding more staff would allow us, free us up more time, and to expand more, to add more staff would be helpful, but also the infrastructure. Even though we may not have the hardware and software that Tom has, but we have to invest in our software and our technology to stay on the cutting edge. As a strategic marketing firm, we have to be on the edge and know what's going on. And our software and everything that we use has to be efficient and the state of the art. And it's expensive. And so when you think about that, you think, wow, we have to invest in that. Our biggest resources are our people. We don't have inventory sitting on the shelf. We have people. And that's our biggest investment. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's, when you talk about tax relief, how does it affect us? Well, for us, because we don't sell plastics or bakery items, which we love, or the graphics, but we do work with companies such as the companies that are sitting at this table, because as a marketing firm, our product is our mind, our strategy, our thinking, that type of thing, to help companies such as this move their businesses forward. But for us, the cost, the tax relief, it really takes another meaning. For us, it becomes retention of employees. So it's not only expanding to hire, we want to keep those good employees. And in professional services, it's a little different thing, different nature to that business when you're hiring and you produce thinking and some intellectual property, if you would, for strategies that help companies. So it helps us to attract that people and also to keep them, because at professional services, at that level, people are wanting good packages, and we want to keep the best that are available to us. So.
And also investing in education. So that's really important, because to retain our employees and also to be attractive to other people, we can get more, the top-notch people. I mean, we have PhDs on our staff. We have that caliber of person that we need to keep retaining them, but also keep them engaged and get them to continue to improve on their skill sets. So that's very important from a business perspective. So technology, big for us. And you know what everything costs. If you want to buy an iPhone right now, it's a lot. But think about for an office and to staff it, and then also in the training, and then again, it becomes a retention as well as an attraction to recruit. And the thing is, there are talented people here in Indiana, but sometimes they're getting stolen away on the coast. well, we can keep them here. And right now, technology is coming up here, right here in the Midwest.
Sure is.
And so we need to be competitive on the pay scale also, because they're also looking at the East Coast and the coast. And so we have to be competitive. That means our salary starts going up. So if you look at our bottom line, our biggest thing is salary in people. And so professional services are a little different. That's one thing we want to make sure that will help us. Now, we didn't say on a personal note what we would spend the money on, and I personally would spend more money on redoing my kitchen. and that's real. It's not, you know, it's a big deal. And for those of you who have redone your kitchen, you know, you've got to really think about, when am I going to make that investment? Those things, you know, so you have to think personal too. The other thing we didn't talk about is philanthropy. And so our company, and I know these people here, our company gives back into the community, and that's very important. And we're involved in helping students, higher education, making sure that other people have opportunities that perhaps, you know, we've been blessed, so we need to also turn back, and that is really important for our company. The more we make, the more we can give, and that's a philosophy of our company.
Let me just add, as you retain your workers and you hire more staff when you redo your kitchen, you're employing even more Americans. So that.
Exactly.
Well, Bob, let me turn it to you from Royal Spa Corporation.
I do think I think Kathleen and Ed made a great comment, though, that a lot of people think the president's vision here for tax relief is that we're lowering taxes on individuals, so you have a little bit more money, significantly more, when you talk about doubling the standard exemption. The first $24,000 in income would be tax-free for every American, so there'll be a lot of kitchen remodeling. But you all made just a great point that I think the governor and I shared a look on, and that is that that the opportunity for business tax cuts is the opportunity for businesses to invest more in wages. Because a key part of your ability to be competitive is to be able to compete on wages and on salaries. And so what you said, Tom, or Edward, about retention of employees, I thought was very insightful. And it's something that we, Dr. Kevin Hassett, who's a member of our administration, one of the leading economists in the country, recently published a very significant study on the relationship between business tax cuts historically in Western countries and an increase in wages. And it is a part of what we see here. Not just more jobs we believe will be created, but also higher paying jobs for Americans who are already working. So I thought you made that point very well. Thank you.
Bob.
My business partner, Rick Bartlett, and I have been in business for over 36 years. So the wisdom of age when it comes to business is very valuable. It is impossible for you to show me a tax cut that was not a substantial financial boom to the United States of America. When you look at the value of this, I see it as twofold. Number one, we don't know how much money it's actually going to be for us. So if it, from a corporate standpoint, if it is thousands of dollars, we might replace a tool and try and update it so that our employees have something a little cleaner to work off of so that they don't have to do as much post-product finish on it. If it is more money than that, we would research an additional product, which would give a whole new line of production to the guys, and they'd have more jobs to work off of that. But on the other side of it, people will feel more comfortable in their jobs. They'll feel more comfortable and safe that there'll be food on their table. And when you are sure there's food on your table, you will go and buy what I sell. And when you buy what I sell, and I have that demand, then I have to bring a lot of bodies in to cover that demand. So you can't just say, if you give me $1,000, I'm going to hire a guy. No, I'm going to create a job, and I'm going to make where that guy can have a job for a career. Not for a day, not for a month. I want these people to come in and become part of this family that we create as businessmen. And to take care of other Americans in a business-like way and in a family way is golden. There's no other country in the world that has that.
I I've known Bob Dapper since both of us had dark hair. And he's a great American success story. Like many of you that started your dreams in your driveways and your garages, he did. While a student, I think, at IUPUI, manufactured your first spa. Is there something about what you're hearing about the tax cuts that are being considered in the House and Senate that you think particularly would encourage more of the kind of entrepreneurism that we've heard about today? Being an entrepreneur yourself.
Well, you would think that the banks that are trying to lend them money for venture capital and for expansions would be more open to a business that is more survivable and has a better chance because their burden is lower. So the bank decides whether or not you can pay it back or not. If the tax burden was lower, you've got a better chance of qualifying for that business loan.
So it's not just the benefit, from your perspective, it's not just the benefit of lower taxes, but it's the ability to sit down with lenders, whether it be in Noblesville or in Evansville, and say, here's our business plan, and suddenly our expenses went down.
There's 50 different perspectives from a business standpoint that this helps with. Just confidence, just respecting other businesses and having faith in them to be here and buying from the local companies is what we needed for years.
Yeah, great.
Thank you for the words. Well, let me turn it over to a great partner as I work on so many labor issues, and an individual very deeply involved in this tax reform, this tax reduction, this job creation effort, Senator Young. Senator.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you, Secretary Acosta. So good to be with you today. Mr. Vice President, it's great to have you home. It really is. We're really proud of you. And yes. And our great governor continues to make sure that Indiana is one of the best places to do business in this country. There's really a lesson to be learned, I think, from the Indiana model, and all the business owners around this table understand it. And some of the workers we visited with earlier understand it. If you can make our country the best country in the world in which to do business, it's going to benefit all of us. It's going to benefit all of our communities. We need a tax code that is simpler, that is fair, and that allows every single American to keep more of their hard-earned money. Bottom line. Now, it's been 30 years since Washington, D.C. fundamentally rewrote its tax code. And since that time, our code has only become more complex. It's only crushed more dreams, more good ideas, more opportunities to grow businesses and increase wages and benefit ordinary Americans like my neighbors in South Central Indiana. And I hear you loud and clear. I've traveled around every corner of this state, and I'm so glad to have heard from these business owners today, because they have said, under the bright lights of TV cameras here today, much of what I'm hearing from others. The time for action is now. We've got to get this done. And yes. I'm not of the belief this is a Republican issue, this is a Democratic issue, this is an issue for independents. This is an American issue. It's about American competitiveness. It's about not only restoring, but building upon the American dream and adapting it to current circumstances. You know, countries around the world are lowering their tax rates, and they have been for a number of years now. And we've been standing still. But the Trump administration has been leading from the front. They put forward a framework that will grow this economy, that will allow more people to invest in capital equipment, that will allow people to hire more workers, to offer more generous benefits to their workers, even to upgrade their kitchen so that they can hire the local contractor, right? And so I know the administration has tirelessly, President Trump and Vice President Pence and Secretary Acosta and all the others, they've been out there and indicating just how important this is for the future of our country. I've heard it loud and clear as I've traveled around the state, and this senator, and I hope 99 other United States senators will be voting for a growth-friendly tax package in coming weeks. We owe that to all of you. So thanks so much for having us. If the Vice President will allow, one final thing. As you see details related to the tax reform package, things will be changing very quickly in coming weeks. Don't hesitate to get in touch with my office. Don't hesitate to call members of Congress who represent you. And make sure you call all my colleagues you can in the United States Senate and tell them that this makes sense, irrespective of party. Hoosiers need to keep more of their hard-earned money. Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, let me, Senator, thank you for the words. To all the job creators here, thank you for joining us, for offering your insights. It's so important that, as the Senator said, you speak up and you make your voices known and heard. And Tom, thank you for being such a wonderful and great host. With that, I will turn it over to the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence.
Well, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Alex Acosta, for doing a great job, leading a great discussion. Our Secretary of Labor. Let me invite all of you. It's not easy under the bright lights and lots of cameras to share your heart and talk about your business, talk about your life. But from Tom Tallman at TKO and all these great Indiana job creators, great job today. Give them a big round of applause, will you? That was very insightful. I also want to thank Governor Holcomb for doing such a tremendous job for the people of Indiana and for your thoughtful comments today. And Senator Young, thank you for that clarion call and for the role that you're playing in delivering on the promise of tax relief for the people of Indiana. These are two great public servants, everybody, and we're honored to be with them today. And one more time, I did notice a banner on the wall here at TKO Graphics that says the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra. And Tom Tallman, we're going to get you a lot more than a little extra to help TKO Graphics grow. Thank you for hosting us today. This is a great, great conversation. And lastly, before I share a few remarks, I want to thank all of you for being here, for taking time as we approach the dinner hour to hear this conversation and to be a part of an enormously important debate in the life of our state and in the life of our nation. But I also want to acknowledge the fact that we're just a couple of days away from a very important annual holiday in this state. It is a day that we remember the men and women who've worn the uniform of the United States of America. Would all of you who are veterans in the room today raise your hand if you're standing, or stand if you're sitting, and let us say one more time how grateful we are for your service to the United States of America in uniform. Thank you. Thank you for your service. You know, President Trump asked me to be here today. He's on a historic trip across the Asia Pacific. He's advancing the security and prosperity interest of the United States, but he wanted us to be here as he's advocating for American jobs and American investment around the world. He asked us to be here to advance what the President and I believe is the single most important element of the President's agenda to strengthen America's economy. And this economy, as the Secretary said earlier, is growing. Since day one of this administration, President Trump has been putting job creation first, rolling back federal red tape. President Trump has signed more bills rolling back federal red tape than any president in American history. 14 different bills. We've unleashed American energy. We put America first, withdrawing from not only the TPP, but the Paris Climate Accord. This president's been rebuilding the military, making the kind of investments that make for a stronger and more prosperous America. And as was reflected on earlier, the economy is showing the results. Here, just a day past the one-year anniversary of when the president and I got hired on for these jobs. I'm happy to report to you that the American economy is making a comeback. We learned just last week in October the economy created 261,000 jobs, nearly 1.5 million new jobs created since President Trump took office. Unemployment's at a 17-year low. The stock market is roaring. American savings accounts and pensions have grown by $5 trillion. After 8 years of growth below 2%, our economy is now growing by more than 3%, and there are more Americans working today than ever before in the history of the United States of America. America's making a comeback. American jobs are coming back, but President Trump and I believe that to have sustained growth, the time has come to cut taxes across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farms, and we're going to fight every day to make that happen. The tax relief the President's planning, as I said earlier, is what he calls a middle-class miracle. It really is focused on working families. The President's outline basically covers three different areas, and the legislation that was unveiled in the Senate today, the legislation that passed out of the key Ways and Means Committee in the House of Representatives today, all reflect the President's framework. But here are those outlines. Number one, the President wants to put more money in working families' pockets, making it possible that the first $24,000 in income for families will be completely tax-free. We're going to expand the child tax credit, and we're going to end death taxes once and for all. Secondly, it's amazing to think in the most powerful economy in the history of the world, a free market economy that sets the pace on the planet, that America has one of the highest corporate tax rates in the industrialized world. So President Trump's absolutely committed to work with the Congress to lower the corporate tax rate from 35% to 20%, and we're going to lower taxes on small businesses that file as individuals to 25%. It'll be the lowest since 1931. We're also going to make it possible for companies that have literally trillions of dollars locked overseas to be able to bring those resources back into the country at one low, effective tax rate, to invest in American jobs and to invest in American workers. And lastly, as I said before, you know, there's an old saying that says the tax code is 10 times the length of the Bible with none of the good news. So we're going to simplify the tax code. We're going to simplify 7 brackets down to 3, and we're going to make it possible for 90% of the American people to file their taxes on a single sheet of paper. That's the goal. Now, all told, the President's plans for American businesses, we believe, will create an increase and a raise for American workers, both in increased salaries and in increased opportunities. By one estimate, Hoosier workers can expect an annual raise of some $4,000 a year when all of the tax relief that we described takes effect. When you add the tax cuts to working families, Hoosier families are going to be winners. Indiana businesses are going to be winners. We simply know that cutting taxes, as I said before, on American businesses is one of the most effective ways to raise wages in this country. And you don't have to take my word for it. You just heard from these small business owners in this completely candid conversation today. You heard Tom Tallman say, and I was very moved, that Tom, who employs 260 people, said he was most excited about these tax codes, that they would give a better quality of life for the employees here at TKO Graphics. It's that employee focus. I know you all noticed it just as much as I did, but every one of these business owners was talking about their people. I mean, Jennifer Weiss of Be Free said she was going to put it right back into the business to be able to hire more people, to be able to expand to even more states around the country. We heard Kathleen and Edward Cabela talk about hiring more staff, being more competitive on pay. I think Kathleen said it best. She said, our biggest resource is our people, and the right kind of tax cuts will make it possible for American businesses to invest more in the American people. And that's an exciting opportunity. So I want to thank all of you for being here today. I want to thank these great job creators. We're going to continue to work on advancing the kind of tax relief that will create sustained growth in this economy. I want to say to you before I leave, though, we've got real momentum. You probably sensed it today. The progress that we're making on Capitol Hill with the strong support of Senator Young and others, the strong support of Indiana's representatives in the majority in the House of Representatives, we're moving forward. But the truth is, as Senator Young just said, we need the support of every Hoosier. We need the support of every Hoosier in Congress. I know we're going to be able to count on Senator Todd Young, but Indiana also needs to be able to count on Senator Joe Donnelly to vote for tax relief for the people of the Hoosier State. It's like Senator Young said, this isn't a Republican or a Democrat issue. This is a jobs issue. It's a competitiveness issue. And we're calling on Senator Donnelly. We're calling on members of both parties in both chambers of the Congress to step up and move the kind of tax relief that'll get the economy growing. You know, the truth is, though, that Washington, D.C. always seems to find a way to stop efforts to let you keep more of what you earn. You ever notice that? I served in the Congress for 12 years. I got a job back in Washington now, but I've been watching Washington for a long time. And there's a reason probably why they haven't cut taxes like the president's talking about for about 30 years. It's because in Washington there's always something else that comes up. So this is where you come in, everybody. We need your help to move this forward. I hope you didn't just come here today to hear some great job creators and hear a presentation about President Trump's vision for tax relief. I hope you leave here today with a burden as Americans to let your voice be heard. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues, talk to your employees at your businesses about what tax relief is going to mean for your company. Talk to your suppliers and your vendors about what it's going to mean. Talk to anyone you can find, and be sure to talk to our elected representatives in Washington, D.C., and say that Indiana needs a tax cut and Indiana needs it now. And with the strong support of Senator Young and great representatives in the Congress of the United States, with the strong support of each and every one of you letting your voice be heard, and with the leadership of President Donald Trump, I believe we're going to pass the largest tax cut in American history, and we're going to pass it this year. So let's get to work. So thank you again. Thank you again for making time for this gathering. I look forward to visiting with many of you. Thanks again to this great panel, to our governor, to our senator, to Secretary Acosta. I leave these gatherings more confident than ever that with President Donald Trump in the White House, with your help and with God's help, we will make America safe again. We will make America prosperous again. And to borrow a phrase, we will make America great again. Thank you very much. God bless you, God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America.